Enemy turret ahead. Enemy turret down.
Watching your back. Healing stream. ده هيكون مؤلم.
Alright, you're peeking the Widow too much. I know you probably don't feel like it, and you feel like you're probably playing around the Widow pretty well, but like, you're actually just peeking too much. So just as a side note, you probably shouldn't never like scope like more than like 2 to 3 like shots in a row without unscoping, like at all, or like without unscoping at all, because like, it just becomes like super risky, because like your focus becomes narrowed, your position has been very heavily telegraphed now, right? And somebody could like act on it, right? You're probably in these situations you're probably fine, like it's not that big a deal. But for example, you don't want to like just like be locked into here scoping and shooting, and suddenly a Widow just pops around the corner and shoots you because she knows exactly where you are, right? Or like a tracer comes up from underneath when you're not expecting it, or like a ball comes up and you're like scoping in and you don't hear him because you're just really focused scoping in, and he just rolls up and boops you off, right? You don't want that to happen. So just like unscope, like take a look around, reload or something, but like, or just like shoot, like especially when there's like a shield, just shoot an unscope down and look around right between shots, and that way you'll just like massively increase like your survivability overall. You see the Widow, you know what the Widow is, right?
Watching your back.
You know roughly what she is, and you still jump and peek, right? And if she was really good, she could potentially just kill you here, right? Obviously, she's not, and it's just a hard shot, but you don't want to risk it, right? Every risk you take with a Widow, like eventually a Widow is going to kill you if you take too many risks, right? And dying here is really bad. I mean, you have a Mercy, so it's not that bad, and they don't have ways to punish it, but you really don't want to like have to force a rest anyways, because one of your teammates also might do it, including heroes that are like much more risk inclined, right? So like the McCree has to take risks in order to do damage, right? The Tracer has to take risks in order to pressure the Widow, right? So you want these heroes that can take risks, that should take risks to have the fallback plan, right? But like, not only do you jump into the sideline, you jump again, right? And that's the case where you just need to like crouch, and then like dodge, right? You can't jump there. And then you peek again for the nade. So very risky. Also, like, if you're going to scope here, right? Like again, you unscope. You cannot take a second shot here because the Widow is looking right at you, right? Even if you don't know she's looking at you, you can't afford like the risk, right? So if you peek to heal you jumped out to quick scope, right? Your Tracer, which is fine, but you can't take a second shot, right? You don't get a second shot because there's a Widow, and it doesn't matter like how good or bad the Widow is. You can't give her this many shots.
You're going to be okay.
Let me get you patched up.
You also need to like rotate at some point before she jumps up like this, because now you're in a situation where you can't cross, right? So once she's down there, you really don't want to get stuck on this corner, because this corner means that getting across to your team is virtually impossible, right? Plus, if like somebody climbs a wall like a Hanzo or like a Genji, or someone comes from behind, you have no escape options, right? Because the Widow cuts off at the sightlines. So while the Widow's down there, especially when you know your grapple's down, you don't want to get stuck here. You want to rotate earlier, right? Because now you're in a really awkward pickle.
I remember this.
Yeah. If you want to cross and you know where she is, you just kind of have to like crouch spam a lot, take quick scopes at her, like jump around the corner, like make it messy, right? Throw a sleep at her. If you hit her with a sleep or you hit enough shots on her, she'll have to back out, right? So you just have to like fight her at this point at this range, which is definitely not favorable, but you do have to fight her or else you're dead, right? You can't cross otherwise. If you believe that you might be able to outmove, like have better movement than the Widow, you can like do some funky stuff with moving and crouching as you're crossing in while throwing unscopes at her, because she's not moving much and you can't miss those. They're like pretty easy to hit. That'll get you across potentially, but you really need to do something to cross, because you do need to cross. If you get stuck
Enemy turret ahead.
Old soldiers are hard to kill.
Oh, it's lagging. 30 frames.
Widowmaker here.
Onwards to victory.
Yeah. So if there's a Widow, right? Don't jump into her sideline.
Widowmaker
I know that sounds really obvious, but like you're doing it. So like just be really mindful of this stuff. Like if there's a Widow, you know exactly where the Widow is, right? So if you want to throw a sleep, right? Don't jump around the corner, then turn and throw the sleep, right? Or take the shot, right? Like get to the corner, quick peek it, throw a sleep, right? And then jump back out, right? Or not jump back out, or do whatever you need to get around the corner again, right? Take a shot, back out. Take a shot, back out. Quick scope, whatever. Like do whatever you need to, but like don't walk into her sideline, right? Because at this point you're giving it a shot, right? she might even miss and hit you, right? At this point, right? So if we look at her POV, like she could potentially miss, right? She could like have a spasm in her arm or something, flick it slightly to the right by accident, and kill you, right? So you just don't want to give her this opportunity, right? Like play away from your teammates, so that you don't get hit by accident, and also like again use cover, right? Quick peeks, shoulder peek, right? If you're not sure she's aiming at you, like say your McCree gets away and you know the Widow's still there, but you're not sure if she's aiming at you. Say you've already revealed your position or something, just shoulder peek, like just do like boom boom, and then she either shoots or she doesn't, right? If she doesn't shoot and she hasn't shot in a while, then she's either been forced back. Ideally, one of your teammates would call this, but she's either been forced back or she's still aiming, right? In which case you can like shoot at your teammate and then shoulder peek again, right? And if she shoots, now you can take the fight because she has to charge again, right? And a lot of Widows also jump, which extends the delay as well. In which case you can come around, throw a sleep, or take a shot at her, right? And then you go back to playing your corner, right? Also remember that you don't actually have to do anything to her, right? This is not your responsibility, right? You can do something to her, but it's not your responsibility. So if you can fit in the time to handle her between healing your team and shooting at the enemy team, that's great. But that's not your primary job. Your primary job is to make sure these people don't die, right? So like if there's Widow here, like again, like you can occupy your attention by constantly shoulder peeking, right, while also healing your team. But if like if you feel confident, like say like the hawk misses a sleep, or the hawk misses the hook, and you have a free sleep essentially. You can just when you shoulder peek enough, you can bait out a shot, and then like when you know she's reloading or between like charge up times, you can go for a sleep, right? As you jump around the corner. These are things you can do. But you do need to like not do this because this is like super risky. You're probably not going to die. Again, like most Widows are not very good, but there are Widows that are really good, and also you just don't want to get unlucky because you like a Widow could just have a hot streak in one of our games, something just kill people, right? And you don't want to take that risk. Like again, that was fine. You can test the Widow, but you can do the same thing from here with cover, right? And you can also do it on your own terms instead of having to jump out and then take the shot while it turns out she's leaving, right? Because if you just shoulder peek a bunch and then she's not shooting, you shoulder peek a little bit longer, right? CS fundamentals, whatever. You shoulder peek a little longer. You see like, oh, she's not there, right? Then you can go back to whatever you're doing. You don't have to worry about her anymore, right? And I mean, that buys you time to like rotate over here. That buys you time to like either continue playing where you are. It's a little unsafe because if she rotates all the way back down, the sight line will like give her like let her see you. But if you or else you can just like rotate over here, right? And start coming up here, right? And now you have this as cover if she does come up there, right? You have the same option. It's just a little harder to heal your team, but it is elevated now, so you're in a bit stronger position to fight her, and you can also rotate over here, right? And give your team like big antis from this location or like heals, etc., right? So just keep in mind, like it's like a rotating game with the mind games with the Widow. If you think she'll come back, you don't really want to be here anymore. You just want to keep playing this spot. If you don't think she'll come back, you want to rotate for sure. But yeah, you do want to like again, you like Ana is like kind of a duelist character. You spend a lot of time in duels with DPS, because as much peel as you're going to get, like there's no protection in the world that will stop like a Tracer from like actually getting onto you if she wants to, right? Or like a Widow for taking a shot at you. So a lot of knowing how to handle these DPS is really important. And Widow is like really important for Ana to handle because like you just don't want to die ever as Ana against Widows. Yeah, and you see how the Widow takes the sight line over here, and now she can see you, and now you're forced really far out, right? As opposed to being here and still being in the fight, right? I don't know if you heard the Widow shot, but right. So now you know exactly what the Widow is. So, that's unfortunate. I was about to say, you need to baby your own Widow, so that way if she gets body shot, she can't get like double tapped by the body shot, right? And second is like you don't want to be closer, because you want to be a little bit farther back so you can see everybody just fine, right? And again, you want to be elevated as well most of the time. So if this position is like way stronger than this position, right? So you just want to start backing up as soon as you identify where the Widow is and know that she can't be over here, and start getting elevated, right? So this way you can heal all three of these people just fine with no problems because you can see their health at all times, right? And these two are tanks, so it doesn't matter they're farther away. You can hit them with unscopes. And this guy is like a Widow, so you can guarantee hit this guy with unscopes as well because she's not moving at all, right? But yeah, you don't want to be really close to here because if somebody swings around this corner, and your tank's lost control or something, like you're the first one in the line of fire beside your Widow, right? You don't want to be there. You want to be like up here. Right, so if you want to cross, so this is again really poor movement. You're kind of jumping back and forward, like. in the space where you know the Widow already has sightlines, right? Like you just saw your Widow get donked, right, from over here, right? So you're just jumping back and forth without actually knowing what's going on. So like it's fine that you slept this hog, right? You ran out and slept the hog. You didn't feel safe anymore. That's fine. But that means you need a transition, right? You need to start rotating, because if you don't feel safe here, which is the only reason to jump out and try and sleep the hog, right? Otherwise, you can just sleep him and then go back to what you're doing, right? Then you need to keep going, right? You need to like transition across to apps where you'll be relatively safe from the hog because you have your tanks in between now, right? And like you also can't get shot from the Widow while she flanks, right? And as long as you're keeping tabs on the Widow flank, you'll know when that's about to happen, right? And you can use this as cover in order for the Widow to flank you, right? If you play this corner, like like she has to come all the way around, right? Which is a super committal angle, and she won't see you first unless you're making sound, right? Which you probably will be, but like in any case, you can fight her at this point, right? You have nade, you can dodge her shot, right? Because like you have enough HP that if you jumped over the shot, like if you jumped on the shot, she probably won't headshot you at point blank range, and you just nade and she probably dies, right? Yeah, you do need to move, right? You can't just stay in the middle of the open because this is like the worst of both worlds. You're not rotating, right? You're most vulnerable when you rotate, but sometimes you need to rotate, right? So if you need to rotate, do it, but make sure you don't get stuck in the middle.
This will help.
So you either run away after you sleep him and take the high ground, where it's like harder for him to push you, right? And there's the threat of potential reinforcements coming back to save you, or you run into apps where you can use your tanks as as like a shield, right? But because you just play in the open, eventually the hog just wakes up and kills you.
Take cover.
All up here. You join me.
The payload has
Glory
reached
alle
the
mistök
checkpoint.
stars.
You really want to get high ground? I know it's scary against Widow, but like this is even scarier. You'd much rather be like here, where like or like you'd at least want to be here, right? So that way if the Widow comes up, you can crouch and just like use the stairs as cover and wait until someone with the shield, namely the Sig, can come out here and push the Widow off, right? And then you can walk back out, right? And once you're out, don't stand around here. This is super risky because the Widow comes over here. This is a free shot, right? So you want to keep going and get to this point where you are now safe. And you can make a decision from what to do from there, right? But this is like very, very scary because not only can you push on the ground, but you still have no idea where the Widow is, right? Yeah, and you almost died. You don't actually, but yeah, you don't want to take
Heal
that.
up.
A lot of Ana is just mitigating risk, right? You can like the longer your lives Ana, the more time you have to make the plays. You have to make plays, right? So, if you only get one nade a fight and it's used to save you, right? Like it doesn't matter how good you think that nade will be, right? It's just way harder to like have consistent impact like that than if you have like 4 nades a fight, right? Even if like they're kind of the angle is kind of rough and it's not very well thought out, and you just kind of chuck the cooldown, right? The more nades you have, the more time you have in a fight, the more value you'll have, right? So you just need to stay alive, and just don't take risks, right? When you do take risks, they need to be surprises, right? It needs to be like a flank, as in like I'm going to go flank, go in for a nade, and two tap somebody, right? And 2-tap a squishy and kill them, right? And you can do that, but just keep in mind that like the risks you're taking are not necessary risks, right? They're not risks that like have high payoff. They're like high risk, low reward, right? Because the reward is you get like 1 extra shot, right? Whereas if you go to surprise duel someone, that's a high risk, high reward play because if you kill them, you win, right? Or not win, but you get a big advantage.
Personne n'échappe
So
à
she
mon
has
regard.
walls, so you need to be really careful about the angles, right? So I don't know if you know where the Widow is. I don't know if it's being called, but where you're playing. I don't know if you know this angle, but this angle like can be shot all the way from over there, right? So that means you cannot stay scoped for too long. You just have to like mix it up, like just keep moving and occasionally scope, right? And second, you want to play like the back half of this, right here, because that way the only place you can get shot from here is places your team is already standing or from under there, which is like, I mean, you know that the Widow's not here because you heard the wall cooldown, or the call out, right? So if you play here, right, and you crouch, right, you can't get shot from anything, right? Like you can't get shot from someone over there. You can't get shot from someone over there. You can't get shot. I mean, you can kind of get shot from someone like over here, and you can't get shot from someone down there, right? But because you have how close you're playing, I won't be surprised if you just die in a couple seconds.
Enemy turret destroyed.
Yeah. You don't die, but like
Sniper,
anytime you eat a body
be
shot,
ready.
like you should breathe with like a sigh of relief that like, oh, I'm not dead. Going
You're going to live.
Damage increase.
okay. Again, if you're not sure where the Widow is, like you play other shooters, right? I'm pretty sure you play like Valorant and stuff like that, right? If you're not sure what the other guy is, but you know where he shot from, right? You know he was over here, right? Don't just walk out, right? Like shoulder peek first, right? Make sure that you don't jump into a sightline and die, right? And it turns out not here. He's not here. Like, where else can he be, right? He's a widow, right? He can only be in a couple places, right? Either went through bank, right? Which is kind of scary, but handleable, right? Or he grappled up, which in case your team would be shooting at the high ground, right? Which didn't happen. Or she's rotating all the way back across, which is kind of unlikely, but still possible. In which case, the net result is you don't want to be here anymore anyways, right? Like, as soon as you identify that she's not main anymore, you want to start backing up to getting over here, right? And you don't want to look away from the main either, because again, like, if you look away from main and it turns out she's still there, right? She like either like try to hook up and then drop down, right? And she peeks you again. If you're walking straight back towards main, you're kind of dead, right? So you want to just like look back, keep shooting, and if you're backing up, you might even see her across, right? And then you can like make a decision what to do, right? But you don't want to be in the open. This just kind of sucks.
What is that melody?
Oh, ah, you jumped. Okay. So your first instinct when you see this widow shot, you've got to like crouch and spin around, right? Crouch, spin around, take a shot, and you might hit her, and you might scare her into leaving, right? But you can't jump, because if you jump, like, it's really good that she actually wasn't looking at you, because that you kind of locked yourself into animation there. She can just kill you. Yeah, be careful. Don't melee that. Do you see how like easy it is to like hook you? Like, so the whole time you're taking turret damage because of your positioning. Like you never actually got fully around the corner. So, after you go complete, like, see how like you come around this corner instead of like again, in order to heal this guy, you don't need to be here. You can do that. You can do the same thing from here, right? And this is just safer, right? You're just like tucked against this wall, healing. There's nothing that can shoot you, right? I mean, obviously I know there's a mercy here now, but like the point is like the potential threat from here is a lot less threatening than like the threat you know is out here, right? So just like tuck yourself against this wall. Ideally, you block off both angles, right? And you can heal this guy just fine, right? Don't stand out in the open to do it. You can risk dying. Like you could eat like just a Torb headshot and die, right? From here, or not like just die, but like eat a lot of damage. Plus you have no nade and a mercy who can't cross the gap because she's super low, right? And you don't want to have to force this mercy to fly all the way to you to heal you, right? Or if you eat the headshot, you might just die to their mercy, right? So just be really careful about this. And then because you're playing out, you eat a Torb shot and you start eating turret damage. And then like if this hog wanted to hook you, he could have, right? Like he didn't even know you were there. But like there's nothing stopping you from getting hooked here. Whereas if you're jumping around the corner, right, the hook will break, right?
My ultimate. You're powered up. Get in there.
I'm overloading! Sing for her!
Enemy turret here. Lights out. لسه في ناس لازم تحميهم.
You needed a doctor?
Alright, you saw the widow, she's on the bottom right.
Enemy turret ahead.
Again, you want to take high ground as Ana, pretty much always, right? Never default to over here, like default to here. And if it turns out your team wants to fight low ground, or you feel like low ground's the answer because the enemy team's already on high ground or something, then you can drop, right? Plus it has an added benefit that unless they're swinging out this far, which is kind of hard to do against your team when they're this close, right? Then like this is like also covered against the high ground, right? And the only thing to watch out for is the flank over there or some random guy being underneath for some reason, right? But you always want to default to pathing high ground in case you need to, right? Because your character is very slow and has no other way to get to high ground.
No one can hide from my sight.
Enemy turret here.
So you've been stuck playing the open for a while because you ended up like first you came here, which is too close, and then second because you were here, your only option is to fall back this direction, and this direction has no cover until you get to here. So like if you're here, like it's a long walk to get to here, and you also need to book as fast as you can. You kind of just stalled out here, thinking you're kind of safe, like you're in this area, but this is just like this is no cover, right? There's no options, and if the widow took a shot at you, you'd have no escape other than your own movement, right? So you do need to get to here as fast as you can, right? Or here as fast as you can, right? You just need to find some kind of consistent cover that you can use, right? We're not in a situation where you just go to okay, so you get in here, but now again, like your angle is getting flatter and flatter, and you don't really have any choices. Oh, that's really scary. Barriers. Like jumping is like a little hard, a little bit harder to hit than just like walking a straight line, obviously. But walking like on the ground just gives you the like way more options to like juke. Like in terms of like just suddenly changing directions, right? You can't really do that when you jump. So just keep in mind that against like single shot heroes, like be very careful of the timing when you jump. You can jump to like throw off a headshot, right? So if you were just about to get to the corner, right? So if you're juking, right? Left, right, whatever, crouch, etc., etc. And as you get to the corner, right? You're afraid that she might headshot you. You just jump around the corner. Oh, oops! I hit spacebar and I paused. So when you jump around the corner, right? Like to get back to cover, you'll probably take a shot, but it probably won't be a headshot, right? So that in those cases it's fine, but be really careful about just jumping as a way to get from like here to here, because you'll probably just die against better widows. Jumping too much. I mean, I jump a lot too, but you gotta know when to stop jumping. Because it'll just kill you a lot.
Score 0-3. Switching sides.
Alright, what do you play on offense?
Attackers ready for battle.
Here it comes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now to strike.
Escort the payload.
Healing stream engaged.
There is chaos within.
You know where the widow is? Making a lot of sound. This should not be a surprise. If you want to go for assassinations, you can, but be really careful walking forward when you know she's here. Because I thought you knew where she was. That's why you were playing here. I was like, oh, that's pretty smart, right? Like, there's probably not a second sniper that can kill you from here, and if you're looking, you can see that they don't, right? And from here you have the wall to cover you against the sniper, and then you can come around later when they leave to like take the shot. But I guess you just didn't notice that there was a sniper there and just walked into her LOS. So be really cautious about snipers. Like, you're spending too much time not looking at the sniper. You want to rotate as fast as you can to someplace that's safe, right? So one thing you can do is like just keep suppressing fire and shooting, and then trying to cross here, right? Alternatively, you just go up these stairs, right? Go into here, come up these stairs, and now you're in position to potentially flank the sniper because you'll make footsteps and she might drop into you, right? Because again, when she's here, she doesn't have a lot of choices about where to go, right? The only real option is like drop off on this side, come over here, grapple up, get to her team. So if you come up the stairs on this side, you might just catch her off guard and just kill her, right? If you get in close range fight with the widow, you're really favored. Just don't charge a right click or she might hear you, right? But yeah. But those are like your choices. Like you don't want to stay stuck here because this is widow food, right? I mean, obviously your widow's now fighting her, which is really nice, but like you don't really want to get stuck here. Yeah. Getting stuck here, and yeah, she's just killing everybody. Also, this is why your team doesn't want to go Arch. Arch is terrible. Again, you can cut her off, right? This is her only escape route, and you just saw her grapple, right? This is the only place she can go. If you get up here, you'll kill her, right? You have walls on her. You can see what she's doing, right? With Discord, you should take that fight.
The shadow of doubt.
So in the absence of your team rotating, you just need to keep dumping as much damage in as you can, build fast.
What is that melody?
That is super greedy. So, you saw what he did to the right? So you know he has to run for a couple seconds, but he's getting hooked soon. So when he jumps over this wall like this, you need to start trying to juke, right? So either like, you just need to be moving to the left to make it harder and harder. Like keep shooting projectiles ahead of him, so that way if he walks into you, tries to like push into you, he'll eat headshots on the way in. But you want to start moving as far away as you can, so that way he can't hook you easily. This is like super. Alright, use Tram. They have a lot of ults though. I like this one a lot. Well, if you want
Tranquility.
so I know you're missing that, your Sig's not going to take you. But if you look where the Sig is, he's not in a ton of danger, right? Think of the stats in the fight, right? There's only a widow who can shoot him, right? and there's like a Mercy and then like an Ana and Marissa, right? He's kind of fine. Like, we're both behind him, like you can't back up, but if you just orb him and then play cover, right? He's probably not gonna die. And if he does get headshot, right? This fight, like realistically, the chances are gonna. So the big thing to note is like he's only gonna die if the Widow headshots him. And Sig has a lot of tools to avoid getting headshot, right? He has the stuck, he has the shield, right? And he has the card with a lot of natural coverage. The bigger thing is if you trans, he can't actually go in, right? It doesn't actually change anything in the dynamic of the fight. It just like heals your tanks, right? And that's just kind of not good enough for a trans here when there's a lot of ults already in play, right? Because it doesn't really stop anyone from dying, and it doesn't allow you to get aggressive. So this trance is just like it'd be a lot better if you just like flanked and killed the Widow instead, right? You just put the orb on your Sig and just flank, got right click and kill the Widow. That'd overall be like a way more valuable play. Alright, so it ends up working out. Vision, Chaos, 10. Alright, you gotta get around cover faster. So you trans. I don't think it's that good, but keeps your tanks healthy, so it's not the end of the world.
Experience tranquility.
Like when you trans, you get back to cover, and it looks like you were, but then you change your mind halfway through, right? When you just need to keep going, right? You just need to keep going, wrap around cart, right? Wrap around the fountain, right? But you change your mind halfway through, and then you get stuck. Walk in front again. I don't know if like you're like keeping in mind what he's doing, like you're just mirroring his movement, but this would be a lot easier to do if you're just looking at him, right? So you like back into him. Yeah. So again, you always want to play cover, right? You want to use the end of your trans to get away, right? So you trans, at the last 2 seconds you run over here and get out, right? That's fine. I prefer you just like backed up normally into your team or like went into like apps, because apps is super secure. And if a monkey tries to come in there, he's like, it's death for him, right? There's too many corridors. You have a mini you can back up to. You can flank and get more aggressive on this side, right? So this is probably not the right way to back up. But if you do back up this way, just commit to it, right? You can't get stuck over here. And then like, because you kind of like backed up this way, and then you like change your mind halfway through, went this way, and then change your mind again, right? And that's why you died, right? Because you couldn't actually get away in the end, at the end of all that.
I have beat one.
Repetition is the path to mastery.
That gets the payload moving.
Suggest a sniper.
Serve the battle.
So as a general rule, with any character that does a lot of damage, you don't want to actually shoot shields if you don't have to. So if there's anything else to shoot except the shield, don't shoot the shield, right? Unless there's a very specific plan to shoot the shields. So just generally, like, if you see if you have a choice between shooting the monkey and the shield, like, don't shoot the shield, shoot the monkey. Same thing for like hog or whatnot, right? So like here, if you look, like here, monkey going right, and you like the monkey's on the left side, right? Instead of trying to shoot the monkey, or at least shoot the left edge of the shield in case like you miss and hit the monkey, right? Like you just try to shoot it twice, and then you try to shoot the monkey, right? But imagine if you shot the monkey instead, right? He would be missing like 120 more health, which is a lot more, right? If you headshot him, like he might even die.
No one can hide from my sight. Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
You know that guy up top. Yeah, you're just also playing too far in the open, right? Like, so again, you want to control the angle, right? So, like if you I'm playing this corner, you control the angle in two ways, right? So there's the angle the Torb is on, right, which is all this stuff, and then there's this angle, and you by like picking certain corners, you can control. You have two like ways to control the angle, which is really strong, right? You can narrow the angle as much as you want, right? Also, you need to orb that guy when he gets dived. Just be more responsive to that, and also you just want to be stuck out here in the open because, like, again, it's not very good.
The payload
You're too close. So this is like what we talked about in the stream last time as well. Is like, if you're not sure about the recon test, like, don't start walking in, right? You only do this if like you've got a teammate in front of you pushing up and who's confirming that it's clear, right? Just like he doesn't have to say, like, if he's up here and he's shooting someone at the enemy spawn, right, you know it's safe, right, to like walk up and push. But like otherwise, if you're not sure if like team's not doing that and you're not sure they're gonna recon test, you don't want to be here. Where are you? You don't want to be here, right? You don't want to be on cart. You want to be like back here, right? and charging your right click and stuff like that. This way you're safe and takes a lot of resources to push you, and they can't push you and connect the cart at the same time. Whereas if like you're on the cart, they can do both at the same time. And it's very ugly.
The turret no longer exists.
One quick tip for fighting snipers with Zen is if you when you right click, your head like kind of drops down a bit. It's kind of like a weird animation where you sort of like drop down and like lean forward a bunch, and then your shots go like over your head or something. So if you crouch right as you do that, your head drops like a lot. And this is like a really easy way to like beat snipers in a duel. Is like as you peek with a 5 orb, you just crouch right as you shoot, and your head just like disappears. It's very hard for those snipers to hit that. So if you know where the sniper is, and he doesn't know where you are, you can just charge it at like an orb and kill her instead of having to take like individual shots. Also try to be more active with your orb. Oftentimes you're not orbing people until they're taking damage, right? But you just want to keep one orb on the guy who's most likely to take damage in the future, right? Or whoever needs the pocket, right? So if you have a tracer, like they should have the orb the majority of the time unless you're healing someone else, right? So like, and if everybody's full health, keep the orb on the tracer, right? Or in certain dive comps, whenever if there's nothing else happening, keep the orb on your monkey. Or if you're preparing to get dived, like no matter what happens, keep your unless like someone like eats a lot of damage right before the dive, like make sure the orb stays on the mercy, right? It's like these are just like really important fundamentals to have. So like right here, right here you have the orb on nobody, right? So your first thing, you take the shot, it's fine. But the first thing you should do after this situation right here is move the orb, right? You don't move the orb until after I think 3 shots or something, right? So like you want to give at least one of these guys orb as soon as possible, preferably the guy farther in front, right? Also the guy more likely to trade HP, which is Zarya. So like that 3 shots is like represents something around like 60 to 70 healing worth of time, right? If you just put the orb on faster. And imagine if your Zarya had 60 to 70 more health right now, right? This would like be a totally different thing. Like your Zarya, instead of being back here, would probably be right here and just killing the monkey probably, right? That's like Zen doesn't do a lot of healing, but it's continuous healing, right? There's no gaps. You can send it through or through shields and stuff like that, and you can do it like without really losing any time if you're fast on the orb, right? So just devote a little bit extra like mental like a space to making sure your orb's always on a good target and is always up, and it's like trying and it's on the person like most likely to take damage if everybody's full health, right? Yeah. Like an orb like through a person trying to take it like on someone taking damage is actually like kind of painful to deal with. Like there's that meme about Sinatra saying like Sabiel will be played like in an annoying style and always had an orb, but like that's actually a thing, right? Just giving the guy who's going to fight someone else an orb is kind of stupid in fights. It's like a soft pocket, right? That doesn't actually require you to like be at risk. And okay, it's too close, right? So again, if you want to shoot the shield, you can just do it from like here, right? In fact, you don't even have to see this guy to shoot the shield. You can do it from here, right? If you're worried about getting sniped, you can play over here, right, and do the same thing, right? But you want to use cover. You can't just stay in the open. I know you got pulled, but you were in cover anyways, so. And so if you look where you're at, this is where you always get pulled, right? Like you really should be like back here, right? If you get pulled out, like that's understandable, right? Obviously, if there is a pull, you should like already be backing up before the pull comes out. But if you do get pulled, like I'd understand, but like you're just too far out in the open, right? Oh god, the monkey jumps, and if he landed, like if he wanted to, he could land right on you, and you just die unless you trans, which is honestly not a bad play, but you'd rather not have to do that.
Feeling power. Experience tranquility.
So again, play the Widow sightline. Like, don't play like back here because this is super unsafe. No matter, even if the Widow's not there, it's super unsafe, right? So like when you end your trance, end on this side, and then shoot the monkey from this side, right, where you're safe. Super unsafe crossing, right? So like the whole time this Widow can see you. So we just watching the Widow's POV. Oh, the Widow's duel. So the Widow gets res.
You must really.
Oh my god, her aim is terrible. But she can see you, right? You can still see you. She still can't. Yeah. So the whole time she could shoot you, she was just really bad at aiming, right? And you just don't want to take that risk. You have to take more risk as Zen because you're much closer to a DPS than you are a true support. But like you should still minimize your risk whenever possible, right? So for example, if you want to shoot him, do it from here, where you actually literally can't be shot at, right? And then like as the fight develops, you transition to over here, where you shoot them from again places you can't be shot at, right? You never want to play this long hallway because again, the Widow is massively favored in this fight over you, right? Like you can surprise her occasionally, right? You can go for peeks, but you never want to just stand here and take the fight because you're not favored at all. Take the fight, like die, right? Again, if you're over here, right? You can slide over here, and now you're safe, right? This position is just generally better when people are above you.
Serve the barrier.
Onwards to victory.
That's right across. Alright, so if you get stuck here, right? The Widow is over here, right? We know this. She ends up dying, but if you shouldn't die, you would have died, right? So what you need to do is just wait. I know you're getting bullied. So you get shot by the Widow, right? But then you kill her, right? That's great. So what do you do after this? You get behind the cover, like behind the cart, and just duck for a second, right? Until your team can help you. Right? Try to cross like this. If the Widow could, if like you do, right? If you just try to walk back towards your team, if the Widow stays alive, you just die 100%. Like 10 times out of 10, this Widow will hit the shot, right? So what you need to do is just get behind the cover, duck, wait for your Sigma to get the shield up, then try to cross back, right? That's how you live.
No one can hide from my sight. Personne n'échappe à mon
You want to get high
regard.
ground right now, or failing that, play like a hidden area, right? So behind this thing, over here, wherever, just like somewhere like covered and hard to get to, right? Obviously high ground's better, but it's not always possible, and in some cases like it can be really dangerous versus Widow. So I wouldn't mind if you played in this area as well. But you do need to get here as soon as you can. Cart's not your responsibility. Especially since you know she has walls, right? Oh god, you need to preemptively take cover when you know she has walls, right? Wait for her to reveal herself. Just sit behind this corner and just wave hello and like crouch and teabag until like you confirm where she is, right? Just don't take the risk.
Healing.
Barrier in place.
Right now, this is completely on you because she's had walls this whole time, and there are so many angles you can get shot from, right? From here, right? Like if you look, you can get shot from up there. A second ago, before the car was here, you were standing out. You can get shot from there. You can get shot from either side of the doors, right? You can get shot from either side of these pillars. You can shot from top right. You can from bottom right, right? Like you can shot from literally anywhere right now, and you have no idea.
Get in there, Bob.
You're covered.
Lies before us.
Like monkeys always want
It
to jump
is
at
quite
this.
real.
It doesn't matter if you're going to live through it. Like it's just a good jump for them to do. Back up the car fast enough, thankfully, after that. But like your push was too aggressive to begin with.
What is that melody?
No longer
I'd really strongly recommend rebinding Discord and Harmony, just something easier to hit. So for me personally, I keep Harmony on left mouse or on sorry, not left mouse button, mouse wheel down, so I can just flick it, and I can move the orb around faster in a pinch, right? I know a lot of people don't like that, so you can do whatever you want. But I also put Discord on left shift, so that way I can just mash it a lot, without affecting my movement keys or my aim, right? So do whatever you need to do. Just put them on keys that are really easy to hit, and that don't that aren't on your mouse button, preferably that aren't mouse buttons, and that aren't like keys like E, for example, that like require you to take a finger off the keyboard, off the directional keys, right? The reason why you don't want it on your mouse button, especially for Discord, is because it will mashing the button a lot, which you will need to for Discord, will throw off your aim. So you just want to keep it off your mouse hand if possible, especially Discord. So like you just fire a lot of shots without like getting Discord down. And you just need to get Discord down. Discord is more important than shots. That's something that like needs to be stressed. Like Discord people is way more important.
Barrier unstable.
Oh, you're flipped.
You think?
Adversity is an
60
opportunity
seconds
for change.
remaining.
One more fight. Oh, yeah. Don't take that fight. It's not worth. You can surprise them again, right? But like, just don't take that fight.
Up here.
Observe the barrier.
The battle continues.
We're leaving with it.
Straight in.
Even I'm strike.
30
enemy
seconds
down.
remaining.
Baiting reaction. So when you get stuck here, when you have trans, your goal at this point is to literally bait people to come in here and fight you, right? And you were pretty successful at that. You got the monkey to come in, right? You tried to you started passing towards the mega and they jumped past you to go grab it. Then you baited on to come down. So as soon as you get naded there, you just need a trans. So it's good that you won that fight, but you need a trans to be ready to trans out an instant. Back up and find right click, you should just trans. And then you finish your shot from the Ana and just die to the tick damage. So like again, like as soon as you finish the right click, just go for the trans. Like don't risk dying because like killing the Ana is less important than not dying here.
Eyes on the bad guys.
10 seconds.
Experience tranquility.
Activating the barrier.
Overtime.
Great game.
No one can hide from my sight.
Fire at will.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
So if you're, it looks like you were trying to get a right click with the last. You were at 3 shots and you go for a right click, so you charge 5 shots and then you reload, right? That kind of makes sense, right? But if you're gonna go for this, you 100% won't have ammo when this is over. So when you fire these shots, you can't jump over the cart, right? You gotta chill on your side of the cart and reload, and then go to their side of the cart, right? Now you're on their side, face tanking a bongo, right? And it turns out this Orisa can't aim, but that's not something you want to rely on.
Payload progresses.
Let's get you back in the fight.
The payload has reached origin.
Alright, I'll call it here. So for Ana, just be really mindful of the fact that like, you need to be more mindful of cover. This applies to both flex support. This applies to all supports actually, but especially for Ana, because Ana doesn't need to take a lot of risks a lot of the time. If you just chill and heal your team, you're probably winning, right? And you can do that very safely from distance, behind cover, right? Because again, you can there are angles that can see only your team and not their team, and these angles are super easy. They're oftentimes high ground, and you can control them really easily. And you can and they have usually pretty good visibility of flanks. So really find these angles and just really think about like, not playing open areas, because these these angles and these cover these corners are really safe, but open areas they're really not. So whenever you're crossing open areas, it's to get from one cover to another. There's no playing the open area, right? Yeah, especially against Widows, just be really mindful of LOS. Don't take the fight unless without a lot of experience, without a plan for the fight, right? So for example, if you were to do 5 orb this guy, 5 orb, and then just peek and crouch at the same time, that would be okay, but it would be even better if you wait until you heard a Widow shot, right? So you just stood here charging, right, and canceling, charging and canceling, and then you hear a shot and you just peek with whatever orbs you have, hopefully more than 3, and then you just shoot, crouch, and then discord, and you'll probably kill the Widow, right? Or not kill the Widow, but it's a safe shot, attempt to kill the Widow, right? And a lot of support is doing this, finding ways to have impact safely, right? Because having impact unsafely is a recipe to just lose fights for your team, right? For Zen, you need to be a bit more active with the orbs. I was going to say especially one or the other, but honestly both. Just be more active with both, and be really mindful about taking fights against heroes that are unfavored. And even though Zen has to be more greedy with LOS because he needs to shoot people, unlike Ada, you can still do it more safely than you're currently doing. You're not playing cover a lot of the time. You're playing the open, and it's getting you killed a lot. What else? I think those are the big ones. I didn't really get a chance to talk much about your nade usage or your sleep usage, mostly because like I think your matchup understanding is probably and position needs like is the most important thing right now. Um, like how do you fight widows, right? Like I gave a lot of like examples for it. I hope that those made sense. I know it's a little bit abstract. Um, but yeah, fighting DPS as Ana, especially like hit scans, is a lot like well, not a lot, fighting widows as Ana or really any character is a lot like playing like Valorant, right, or CS, or like any game that like people just kill you in an instant, right? Super low TTK. Um, so do what you need to do to live, um, and try to take unfair fights, right? So like when the widow shoots something else, then you peek, right? Because you know she has to charge, and that's unfair, right? um, and yeah. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. And yeah, I'll end it here.